Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to the first episode for Heavy Metal Hidden Gems. So this is where I want to take a look deeper into the heavy metal genre. I want to look at bands and albums that slipped through the cracks, maybe ran under the radar. You know, they just didn't hit the big time the way some of the other major artists like Megadeth, Metallica, stuff like that did. So we're looking at those lesser known bands, the ones that didn't have the big, million sellers and all that sort of stuff. I want to shine a light on these lost gems and hopefully bring them to a wider audience, which is you guys out there. And if nothing else, maybe just remind you about them so you can go into your collections, pull them out, and enjoy them the same way I have been. Before we get started though, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll stay up to date on really cool episodes just like this with heavy metal hidden gems. First one that we're doing here. And so I've got 6 of these albums to run through with you. We are going to do them alphabetically because this is not a countdown. This is not that one is better than the other. All of them are good. We're just simply going to do it alphabetically and give them all an equal shot here. First one up, one you guys might know about, but definitely not the major player within the metal world or anything of that nature. And so for a lot of people, this would have run under the radar, and I just think it is such a good album. I want to shine a light on it here. Armored Saint, Symbol of Salvation from 1991. 4th studio album from the band. This one here was the first one with Jeff Duncan on guitar, coming from Odin. If you guys remember the movie that he was in, The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, his band Odin was in that. He replaced original guitarist Dave Pritchard, who unfortunately passed away in 1990 due to leukemia. But I'll say, if nothing else, and no slight against Dave Pritchard, what Jeff Duncan has brought to the band is absolutely amazing, and I love this album for it. It's very, very heavy, hard rock. It's still metal. It's kind of what happened when lead vocalist of this group, John Bush, moved on to Anthrax doing Sound of White Noise, where he brought this more from thrash metal into a hard rock, heavy metal sort of thing. That's what this was. It kind of took it from all-out metal into the more hard rock territory, but so good. The first 3 tracks on this thing are just to die for. Rain of Fire, Dropping Like Flies, and Last Train Home, all of which I think were music videos, and that's how I first knew them. I bought this one a few years on, maybe around 94, 95, somewhere in that era. Simply because I had known those music videos, and of course that the singer went on to be in Anthrax, but found out how much I love this and then went back and bought everything the band has done since. So definitely recommend that. I would suggest you guys jump on it if you didn't already know about Armored Saint. Any of their stuff is good, but that happens to be my favorite album. All right, next one up, we're staying in the vein of things related to Anthrax here as we do Belladonna, self-titled 1995 release, so debut studio album from the former frontman, at least at the time, of Anthrax, Joey Belladonna. That's where this gets the name. His last album, full album, because there was a compilation after this, but Persistence of Time, and of course we know that later John Bush comes in and does this one. But if you loved this album or any of the stuff before this that Joey Belladonna was part of, in your mind, the stuff with John Bush just didn't live up to it, and you never checked this out, that's where this is. For me, this was a continuation of Anthrax sound with Joey Belladonna, just doing it under the solo name of Belladonna. Now, the future albums that he would release under the Belladonna name, one of them, Spells of Fear, was more of an industrial metal sound and so forth. This one here from 1995, everything that's on it sounds like classic late 80s, early 90s Joey Belladonna era Anthrax sound. So again, highly recommend this release from 1995. Just very good stuff in that vein. Gonna do you right if you check it out. All right, now keeping on with frontman who would go on to bigger name bands but did some amazing things in their own right, I pulled out Beyond Fear, the self-titled release from 2006. Now this is a promo release, which is why it looks the way that it does, and it's in one of these thin cases. I'm just opening it up so you guys can see the stuff, but it's that slimline jewel case. I've never replaced it with an official real jewel case release. But Beyond Fear, the self-titled 2006 album, which was a debut studio album for the band, featured Tim Ripper Owens, who of course was with Judas Priest, Jugulator, Demolition. Those two albums, I absolutely fell in love with his style of the lead vocals from those albums there. When he got out of Judas Priest, he joined up with Iced Earth. And so Tim Owens formed this band as a desire to be more involved in the songwriting for a metal album than he had been. He'd really been kind of denied that for both the Judas Priest albums he was in and Iced Earth. Both of those had very strong-minded guitar players that wrote everything. And so this here is very classic traditional metal in the vein of what he did with Judas Priest. So if you liked this album and the Painkiller album that came before it with his predecessor Rob Halford, that's what this is in the vein of. It's so good. I bought this, came home, did not know what to expect, popped it on, and it literally blew my mind. I was getting more of that same stuff, just under a different name, Beyond Fear. So this album here, unfortunately, is the only one that the band has done to date. Obviously, Tim Ripper Owens has done so many different projects. I mean, if you like his voice, you can find him doing just about anything out there, whether it be band projects, solo albums, or with huge major bands like Judas Priest and Iced Earth and stuff like that. But all of it's very good, and if you didn't know about this one here, highly recommend as a great lost hidden gem of the metal world. Okay, next one up, Fate's Warning, Parallels from 1991. This one here was the 6th studio album and 3rd one featuring newer vocalist Ray Alder, who I absolutely really love, especially his 2 recent solo albums. But in my opinion, the reason I'm focusing on this one here is I think it was light years ahead of the 2 previous albums that had Ray Alder on vocals singing for them. The last album, or well, I don't know if this was the last one, but the album that was sort of, they were most famously known for, which was Night on Brocken, and had, I forget his first name, Arch was his last name, and you can still get Arch Mathos albums, which are the 2 main guys from Fate's Warning back in the day. But after that, they started to change and become more progressive metal in the vein of what this album ultimately sounded the most like, Queensryche. And that ultimately is what drew me in. And so if you're a fan of Queensryche sound from the Empire, Operation Mindcrime era of the band, that's what this album here sounds a lot like, in my opinion. Ray Alder on these releases here very much sounds like Jeff Tate, whether a good or bad thing. Great for me at the time because it's what pulled me into it. And I also just want to point out that the artwork, and that old guy was in Metallica videos, and the artwork here was the same guy that did the stuff for Megadeth. So I used to see this album cover and think, hey, that's the old guy from the Unforgiven music videos, and then look at the artwork and think, wait, that looks a lot like the Countdown to Extinction Megadeth releases. So I was already pulled into this without really knowing it. And then when I first gave it a listen and said, geez, that guy sounds a lot like Jeff Tate of Queensryche, I picked it up solely based on that, and of course have learned to really explore and reach out into the band. But this one here, just an absolute stellar album. Again, if you like the Jeff Tate fronted Queensryche, I think you're going to really dig this album here. Okay, next one up goes to a new wave of British heavy metal band, Quartz, Stand Up and Fight, 1980 released album. This is their 2nd studio album. As I said, new wave of British heavy metal band that had all kinds of ties with Black Sabbath, including keyboardist Jeff Nichols played on Quartz's debut album from 1977, which is really good, but nowhere near as good as the 2nd album. But Jeff Nichols is not part of this one here, yet they still maintain that sound like Black Sabbath. So if you're kind of looking for a really good, long-lost Black Sabbath sounding album that is of the Dio years, I would say, actually more than anything, this is it. This is really good. Definitely check out Stand Up and Fight. The band Chords just doesn't get enough due, in my opinion. It was also first major label release for them. I actually think it was the only major label, but they were signed to MCA Records for this second album here. So got a good push and everything like that, but it just didn't catch on. The band would go on to release one more fantastic album that I'll probably feature at a different time here. And then later on, they would return with Jeff Nichols in tow, make a few albums before, unfortunately, he would pass away. All right, and the last one that I want to talk about here, the last heavy metal hidden gem that we're going to hit on for this episode. Hopefully we'll do some more episodes of this if you guys like it. U.D.O. Animal House from 1987. What a fantastic album, and great one to end with here. Debut studio album from the new band that featured Udo Dirk Schneider, namesake of the band. I always kind of think of these as solo albums because he's the only original member to remain with them, sort of like Alice Cooper albums and stuff like that, or Dokken for that matter. But all of the songs that are on this one here were intended for the next Accept album, which would have been the follow-up to Russian Roulette from 1986. But Udo took those songs, making this album, and of course Accept would hire David Reese and make Eat the Heat, which came out not until 1989. So he really beat them to the punch with this album here. And if you've never checked out Udo or only know some of the later day era stuff, but you always liked Accept with Udo, this to me is a lost era Accept album just under the name Udo, because like I said, all the songs were written for Accept. They were demoed for it. The band allowed him to take the songs and go do this. I think they just wanted to start fresh, kind of a thing. But fantastic album. Some of these have appeared on best of comps and stuff like that, so you might know them, but right from the get-go, the title track, Animal House. Track number 3, They Want Wars, one that I hear a lot done live by them. Number 7, We Want It Loud is a great one. Number 11, Run for Cover. So just a lot of great stuff on here, making this one too a heavy metal hidden gem. Definitely worth checking out. Almost bordering on heavy metal masterpiece, but it's just such an unknown album within the world of metal that I don't know that it makes that one. So we will put this one here in Hidden Gems, and there you go. 6 of these albums that maybe you didn't know about, you can search out, or you forgot about, and you can go back to your collection and pull out. But there you go. Like I said, if you enjoyed this episode, the first one that we're doing here, Heavy Metal Hidden Gems, let me know. Maybe we'll do some more of these things. And let me know some of the ones that you like, and maybe they'll get featured in upcoming episodes. All right, everyone. Take care. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.